Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan, MS Pearce, Ukraine War News Update. First part for the 19th of March 2025. I've just got off the back of recording an analysis of the Putin-Trump phone call last night, and I was recording the wrong screen for the entirety of the video, and I'm so annoyed because there's a pretty good analysis, I think, and I could do it all again, but so I'm sorry about that. And actually, some of that was visually quite important because I was talking about how Trump looks in terms of the interview with Laura Ingraham and how downbeat he was. And there's certain visual things that I think were important. So I'm really sorry about that. And I don't think I've got the wherewithal to do it again. So it is what it is. You can just hear it, listen to it, but it won't be nearly as good. Anyway, Ukrainian general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply. You can find those caveats in the description to the video below. So we have 1,060 personnel lost. That's a down tick from previous days. Although oddly, 12 tanks. That's above the daily average. 14 troop carrying AFVs is below. And 64 artillery systems. Another massive day there. That's really ticked up 3 times the daily average. 1 multiple launch rocket system and 111 vehicles and fuel tanks. So some fairly high numbers in some of those categories and low in others. Relatively low, that is. We have no Andrew Perpetual loss lists today, so just going on those figures there. We know that the Ukrainians have attacked into Belgorod. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. Well, in fact, let's do that now. So, as Artois says, they might have just gone and done it again. Ukrainian advances into Belgorod today, and I reported this in a breaking news update yesterday, are persistent and continuing, according to Russian sources. Ukraine is trying to cut in as far as possible and reach a major population centre in order to repeat the Sudzha scenario. And indeed, Andrew Perpetua's mapping update shows that the Ukraine launched an attack into Belgorod near Demidovka. The attack is pretty close to the incursion into Kursk, only 20 kilometers south of Kiev and Plikovo, which is, so there's the remainder of the Kursk sector. And you can see as you just come down the coast, the border here, you get to the area, relatively small area. Of course, it's only just been attacked, that the Ukrainians have moved into, and there you see it, pretty small scale it appears, but there is evidence that the Ukrainians are there because they've had a Bradley already hit. Don't know the damage to it because it obviously cuts out as soon as it gets close, but that is a Bradley that has been hit by a Vandal drone outside Demidovka in Belgorod there. Okay. There was an Eternal Flight Brothers claim from, I presume, fighter bomber. That usually means a helicopter's been lost, been shot down or something. Don't know any other details other than that was announced. And it usually, if it is from fighter bomber, it will be pretty accurate. But I don't know if that's definitely from where it was from. But nonetheless, there could have been a Russian helicopter lost. And actually, we know there was a Mi-8 that has been taken out by, let's come to that next, actually, because pretty incredible footage has been released by, is it the HUR, is it the GUR, the intelligence lot have released this. But anyway, on the Blue Sky version, it's only a minute because videos previously, actually no, this is 2 minutes 14 here. The full one on Twitter is 3 minutes 14, and it is well worth looking at. So, okay, what's this all about? Supposedly, these are drones that have been, I believe, released from those Magura V5 style C drones, the USV unmanned surface drones that, you know, pilot up the coastline, get towards Crimea sort of area, and then release their drones and act as, I presume, a repeater for those drones. And those drones go and attack things. Well, Russian air defense, naval vessels, and a helicopter hit. For days, occupiers in Crimea trembled, says no reports, as Ukraine's military struck their costly air defense systems. Precision attacks destroyed multiple radar stations, S-300 launchers, Panzer S-1 complexes, a tugboat, and a Mi-8 helicopter. This is incredible footage, as in there is an absolute ton of very good equipment that was taken out by the Ukrainians here. So a very impressive video of attacks by Ukrainian FPV drones launched from sea drones deep into the Russian rear by the main directorate of intelligence for Ukraine. And we have a list of what is on there. And in fact, as the video plays out, they list the things that are targeted there. Now, the video shows strikes on a number of very valuable Russian pieces of equipment, including many radars. Now, with these, you can't verify that they've been damaged or destroyed or whatever, because they cut out, as I just mentioned, these FPV drones, unless you've got a spotter drone, which is unlikely in these instances where they've taken off from the USV. There are going to be no spotter drones, I don't think, but let's assume that these things are at least somewhat damaged, and these are really high value bits of kit. So 2 Podlyot radars, 2 Niobium, I don't know if that's a Nebo actually, 3 Castor radars, an Imbir radar, a Niobe SV S300 VM, a Niobe M, and a Protivnik, and a Mies radar. These are big radar pieces. All of these are sizable bits of kit. It looks like an incredibly expensive array of equipment. And then other targets here: an S300 SV air defense system launcher, ST-68 radar command post, 3 Panzer S1 air defense systems, Project S4236 transport and tug vessel, a Fyodor Urpin universal tug, and a Mi-8 helicopter. All of these were targeted with these drones. So they have been doing a really fantastic job of attacking deep into the Russian rear by using FPV drones, bouncing off large-scale repeaters. Excellent stuff. Then there is a crash. There was a crash of a Mi-28 back inside Russia. Was it in Leningrad region? Yeah, Leningrad region of Russia. 2 crew members died. That's a military helicopter. So essentially, that is, from that information, 3 helicopters that have potentially been taken out or have crashed. That's really good news for the Ukrainians. We've got a video of 3 Coxan, the North Korean provided Gimlas. Oh, no, Coxan self-propelled guns, sorry, taken out by Gimlas. That's a guided multiple launch rocket system, cluster munitions, so something like a HIMARS or similar, sending out a missile that then drops cluster munitions on to, in this case, 3 Coxan self-propelled guns. I don't know what the overall damage was to them, but good news there. So the Ukrainians have been very busy by the looks of it, or at least, yeah, it's hard to know actually sometimes what time period these are either from or over. So a big montage video will have an awful lot of kit like we just seen, but actually that might have taken 2 months to compile that footage. So yeah, just take that into account. An important video here: Ukrainian F-16 flying in the sky. Okay, so what? Well, it's flying in the sky over Sumy, which is 35 kilometers from the front line in the Kursk region. So these planes, that's an F-16 getting very close to the front line here. That's a sort of close air support type of role. That's hitting some vital targets in support of either the defense of Ukrainian positions or attacks somewhere or something. So that's worthy of note, that bit of footage there. Now, Andrew Perpetua says, it's fascinating how drones have become a way to recycle old weapons. You have mortar shells that are too low quality to fire from tubes. You have recycled aircraft bombs and missile warheads. You even see recycled FPV drones gathered and rebuilt into new drones. Drones allow you to make use of every available resource. It's actually a pretty efficient way to wage war. And they turn very cheap weapons into extremely dangerous precision-guided weapons. That's a good point there from Andrew. Right, moving on to distant strikes. So last night there were 145 Shahed drones launched. 72 were shot down. 56 were lost in location. So that's 128. That actually isn't a great interception rate. So that's over 10% got through. So 128 to 145 gives you 17 drones to have reached their destination out of 145. Bit of an issue there. But then we hear this weird claim from the Russians, and I don't know if it's true, but they are claiming that Russians shot down 7 of their own drones. So at the time of the order to temporarily cease attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, so this is concerning the idea that Putin had agreed to stop hitting energy infrastructure last night, but then some missiles slammed into Sloviansk and it lost power. But now they're claiming they shot down 7 of their own drones that were on the way to attack Ukraine's energy infrastructure. So if that's the case, maybe only 10 got through. 7 Russian attack drones were in the air targeting facilities in the Mykolaiv region. Russian air defense shot down 6 drones using the Pantsir system and 1 by a fighter jet. So they claim. Or that could be that 17 got through and another 7 would have flown into Ukrainian airspace, but were taken out by the Russians. So who knows? But that's the claim from the Russians. Now, amidst talks of a ceasefire and an end to energy strikes, Russia struck an energy facility in Sloviansk in the Donetsk region. That took place pretty much just after the phone call last night. And there were some fairly rosy skies that were recorded, reflecting probably some pretty serious damage done to the energy infrastructure there. Then this video, large-scale fires raging in the fields in the Odessa region. Thick smoke covered the sky. I presume this is from sort of not a wildfire, but a fire on the grasses there that has started from falling debris or something. I mean, I reported on this in Berdyansk the other day and said, wildfires do happen. But these kind of fires, I don't know. I mean, that's massively widespread. I presume that is coming from now. I don't remember seeing this footage before, but then I've not seen this footage anywhere else. That looks absolutely incredible. It could be that fields are on fire around that neck of the woods from Russian drones that have been shot out of the sky or something. I don't know. Who knows? Now, a hospital in Ukraine's northeastern city of Sumy and another in the town of Krasnopilya were hit by drones during a series of attacks on Ukraine, prompting Zelensky to accuse Putin of de facto rejecting a ceasefire. So not only Sloviansk hit, but hospitals in Sumy. Pretty typical. Fires broke out in 2 factories in Dnipro. So this is not from last night, but the night before, I believe. Following Russian drone strikes, at least 10 out of 137 drones may have reached their targets in 5 regions. So again, not last night, but the night before. The point there was that we heard that Dnipropetrovsk was struck, and it could be 2 factories, and then you're thinking probably arms factories or related to the arms industry, but we don't know. Nothing like cold tea. Then some success for the Ukrainians last night. An oil pipeline pumping station in Krasnodar region of Russia. A large fire broke out there. That's the Kavkazskaya oil pumping station, and it looks to have been a pretty significant strike, or at least it's caused something of a problem there. Sorry, issue with blue sky rendering correctly. So massive fire and explosions. Drones attacked the Kavkazskaya oil pumping station in Kuban overnight. The pipeline between storage tanks was damaged and the fire spread to a nearby oil depot. As of this morning, operations have been completely halted there. So good success for the Ukrainians in taking out that pumping station. That's now functionally destroyed, or at least it's if it's halted, then job done, at least for the time being. And it's still burning in the morning, filling the air with the familiar scent of smoke. Local reports say one of the storage tanks has been depressurized, causing an oil spill. The fire has spread to 1,700 square meters. Nearly 227 emergency workers are involved in that fire, trying to put that out. So that is a serious bit of burning oil infrastructure. And let's put that on a map. If we have the Caspian Sea here, we have the Black Sea here, and the Sea of Azov. I'm not sure exactly where that one is. Is it there? Kavkazskaya? No, it doesn't look like it. I don't know which one of these is Kavkazskaya. But anyway, that's the pipeline that it affects. Complex includes a railway oil terminal and a 15.7 meter long connecting pipeline to the Kinskaya oil pumping station, which is part of the Caspian Pipelines Consortium. Now, we have heard complaints previously from, is it Kazakhstan, that have said, actually, we own this pipeline. Can you stop hammering it, please? Bit of a problem. Unmanned systems forces hit, though. That's in Krasnodar Krai. So you're going to presume it's going to be further over to this neck of the woods, but who knows? Somewhere along there, the pipeline has been hit. Right, okay. Lots of fiery images coming out from there. Now, this isn't from last night. So, Ukrainian attack on the Unechia oil pumping station has resulted in the complete destruction of the 110 kilovolt Vysokoi substation, cutting off its power supply. The LPS Unechia is a key hub for oil transit via the Druzhba pipeline to Ust-Luga, a major export route for Russian oil. And this, so if we look at Ukraine is here, that's Kyiv. We have a pipeline that comes very close to the border and then skirts through Belarus, but also can go up to Ust-Luga up here on the, St. Petersburg on that sort of Baltic Sea area. If that's been hit there, then that junction stops all of these directions being fed by Russia with Russian oil. So, they've shut off this one. The Ukrainians have shut off this one that comes down through into Hungary and Slovakia. But these other pipelines may well still be operational. I presume they are, and that has been hit. That is cutting off the power supply. So that is a substation that allows it to pump. So it's not hit the actual pumping stuff itself, but the energy that allows it to pump. Now, I find this as almost one of the most important things I've heard in the last 24 hours. I'd like to know where Max24 has got this from, but Zelensky, well, presumably Zelensky, but what his source was. Because I've been wondering for quite some time what it is that the US hold over Ukraine to the point where Zelensky's going around trying to build bridges, rebuild bridges, try and fix the damage that's been done by the Oval Office fracas. The US doesn't want to help Ukraine anymore, it seems, but it's kind of helping them because everyone's expecting them to, but really Trump and his administration aren't that bothered. What is it that the US provide that if it's turned off, Ukraine are really, really in trouble? We heard about intelligence sharing and we've heard about aid. I don't think military aid is all that important. It is very important, of course, but that's going to whittle down and that leverage will disappear because there'll be no new presidential drawdown authority or USAID, bunches of money appropriated by Congress for the US to spend on Ukraine's behalf, right? So that will whittle down to zero. Intelligence sharing will continue. So is it that's the leverage that the US have over Ukraine? And if so, what is it about that? And is it that the Europeans or other allies cannot provide that data? They simply don't have the capabilities. And it appears that it is indeed that. So if the US does not provide us with intelligence, says Zelensky, Ukraine will not know where the Russian ballistic missiles are flying. Why this is so important is that so Ukraine has been able to prosecute the defensive war, I would say massively, because the skies above Kyiv are protected. I've been to Kyiv a couple of times and I felt completely safe. Yep, air raid sirens go off. Yep, there are drones flying around, but they do get shot down, usually on the outskirts of Kyiv, right? It is very well protected, all things considered. But what they're most worried about in Kyiv are these ballistic missiles, the Kinzhal hypersonic missiles or other, ballistic missiles that can find their way to Kyiv. And you have to have the right munition and the right air defense system to take down those ballistic missiles. They're very difficult to shoot down. But they've got Patriot PAC-3s, maybe SAMP-T, and they've got essentially to this place where the capital is safe. And if the capital's safe, then Ukraine can at least somewhat function. And if the US properly decide to align with Russia and or go against Ukraine, then I imagine the Ukrainians would lose their ability to protect Kiev. And if they lose their ability to protect Kiev, they're in serious trouble. Serious trouble. And that is why he's desperately bending over backwards to appease Trump. That's the leverage. Okay, so we talked about Belgorod. Don't need to go into that. Reuters reported that there was a massive oil leak in Norway. I meant to say this yesterday, but forgot. Sabotage was suspected. This has become almost a daily occurrence. Old Hamburg substation. There's burglary and an oil leak there. So sabotage is happening fairly consistently in a number of European countries, and Russia appeared to be the source of that. We are hearing that UTELSAT. So these are. This is a setup that is potentially a competitor to, is a competitor to Elon Musk's Starlink, but it's nowhere near at the scale of Starlink, right? And whether Starlink kind of dismissed UTELSAT, I don't know. It's OneWeb sort of merged to become UTELSAT. But anyway, European Starlink competitor UTELSAT has revealed that they already have complete coverage of Ukrainian territory and are ready to replace Starlink in case Trump pulls the plug. That is very interesting. Now, I would expect Europe to get behind UTELSAT in a big way now with what we're hearing with regard to Musk and the US in general. And as they go for European independence from the US in terms of military equipment, that will be underwritten by technological independence first and foremost. And so I think Europe will be very interested in giving UTELSAT a real leg up to compete, being able to compete more properly with Starlink and Elon Musk. At the same time, we hear that the US is suspending, according to Reuters, some efforts to counter Russian sabotage as Trump moves closer to Putin. So under Trump, the National Security Council has stopped holding regular meetings with European officials, and these are 7 different agencies, I think, that meet with Europeans to work on how to stop the Russian hybrid war having its effect on the US as much as Europe. And those kind of working groups that monitoring the hybrid warfare have been kind of pared back or stopped. This is just another example of the US giving up. I don't know, just aligning with Russia. It's an absolute shocker. So you can go and read that in Reuters. Anton Gerashenko, now talking about Elon Musk, is reporting, or at least The Independent and other news sources are reporting, that Kremlin is wanting to work with Elon Musk. In fact, is Kirill Dmitriev, guy that's in charge of Russia's economic growth and whatnot, Sovereign Wealth Fund, he has announced, he announces it today or yesterday, that he's going to have meetings with Elon Musk. And Elon, there's your compromise. There's follow the money. Elon Musk meeting with the Russians about how to fly to Mars, but of course that's going to require, no doubt, lots of rare earth metals and resources that Russia can provide in the bucket load to Musk. Russia's expecting, says Anton Gerashenko, to hold talks with Musk about flying to Mars, Putin's international cooperation envoy said. Kirill Dmitriev, there you go. It's right in front of my face. Appointed by Putin as his special envoy on international economic cooperation, said Russia's enemies were trying to derail Trump's efforts to restore dialogue with Moscow. Dmitriev stressed that Russia wants to cooperate with SpaceX CEO Musk as part of Moscow's effort to strengthen and develop Russia's space agency Roscosmos and state nuclear corporation Rosatom. The Bond villain becomes the super Bond villain. He's just like, you don't need to give him any more power and any more influence. And now Russia are seeking to get into bed with Trump. Now, I released this wrong screen video of an analysis of the Trump-Putin phone call, as I mentioned earlier, and that's really annoyed me. But I was not in time to tell you about this. So today, it appears that Zelensky's in Finland meeting with Alexander Stubb, the Finnish leader, who's a staunch supporter of Ukraine and he's fascinating to listen to. Honestly, Alexander Stubb is brilliant. Journalist asks about the energy sector ceasefire. What would you need to give an order to stop strikes on Russian oil facilities? Zelensky said, well, assurances and just Putin's words that he's giving orders not to hit the energy sector are not enough. Why? Because unfortunately this war has made us very practical people. An example is yesterday's strike after Putin's words about stopping attacks on the energy sector and civilian infrastructure. He said he had given the order. After that, there were 145 drones, 4 S-300 missiles and 2 Iskanders. They hit Sumy, Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Kharkiv and Chernihiv regions. They hit an agricultural enterprise and a railroad. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, 21 ordinary houses were hit. This is the cost of Putin's words. So words alone are not enough. We really want to see some real control. It is difficult to say now. There will be a technical meeting, but the main subject of this control should be the United States of America. If we have a corresponding agreement, there will be a list of objects. We have a list of objects, civilian objects, energy objects, infrastructure objects, and we will definitely prepare it and provide it to our partners. If the Russians don't hit our objects, we will definitely not hit their facilities. So there you go. That's what he has to say. And there's now presently a lot going on in terms of what's coming out from the conversation there between, or not the conversation between Zelensky and Stubb, but actually the answers to the press questions. It's impossible to end this war with a just peace without us. That's the idea, that you can't have a peace negotiation about Ukraine without Ukraine. And so there is that. What else? At the next meeting in Saudi Arabia, Ukraine will send a technical team to discuss the details of a temporary ceasefire. First of all, military, energy, port, and other civil infrastructure experts. This is not exactly the diplomatic meeting that has already taken place. So on and so forth. So lots of, no doubt, lots of sound bites coming from Finland at the moment. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Apologies about the first video of the day. But take care and I'll speak to you soon. I thought I had a live this afternoon. It turns out I'm speaking to Malcolm Nance on Thursday, that's tomorrow, and on Friday with Marika, let me get this right, Mikiashvili, on about Georgia. And I'm really looking forward to both those conversations. They are going to be fascinating, interesting chats, as are all the guests I have on. I'm really, really proud to have spoken to so many great people about the war in Ukraine and getting their take on things. And please support the channel by watching those. They hopefully will prove to be very edifying engagements. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.